Hello again guys, and welcome to another video. Today it is part 2 of the Great War, of basically this alternate future scenario. This is probably going to end in a stalemate, and there's going to be more videos like this to come, but this is the first large war, so I want to finish it today. This is part 2. Let's go ahead and continue the scenario then. We see American troops finally arriving in Europe, but it is a bit too late as Russia's recaptured Kaliningrad, taken over the Baltics, begun to push into Finland, and begun to push into Romania. So yeah, we really see Russian troops doing very well in Europe as they begin to take large parts of land until they meet some Western European armies. The Polish have been basically holding them off on their own, but now they have some help. We see Germans helping them, the French send help, UK sends help, Spain sends help, Italy, and the front is a lot more secure now. With that, the blue team even manages to push back a bit, but they are stopped pretty quickly before they can get far into Russia. The Nordics also begin their own operation, pushing into, northern Russia. If you didn't know, right here, there's basically just this one road that connects the north. You cut that off, the entire region is yours. Is it the Kola Peninsula? I don't know, I can't even remember. But I do know one thing, and that is that Russia is being pushed back on all fronts. They basically just sent their entire military in to try and kill the blue team as fast as possible. And they should all know by now that that strategy doesn't work very well. With this, practically all blue team countries are beginning to push back on all fronts, and the red team is starting to make some big mistakes. One place where it is going well, though, is in northern India, and one place where it isn't going well, southern Pakistan. Over here in South Korea, we see the South pushing into the north. But South Korea, even with Japan, is no match for China, who is sending a lot of troops down to attempt to take out South Korea entirely. They begin to push back, and one of the most major battles of this war happens, the Battle of Seoul, leading hundreds of thousands of people to die. But in the end, South Korea does capitulate. Along with that, China makes a landing in Taiwan and takes the entire island. They also begin to push back into Southeast Asia, and basically I really just don't want to underestimate China here. They are the most populated country, third strongest military. They have basically largest population, second biggest economy, very powerful, expected to grow. This is like 10 years in the future, so that is why I'm making them do so well. Over here in the Middle East, though, Iran isn't doing so well. Their people are maybe not rebelling, but definitely not in favor of the current Iranian government. And with Russia retreating troops to help in Europe, they aren't able to hold the front. So they decide to just basically retreat to a point where they can hold it. If you didn't know, 2 rivers going through Iraq, the Euphrates and the Tigris. This is about where they go, so Iran tries to hold a front along the rivers. Meanwhile, up here in the north, they allow Turkey to seep in, but hold a front along the mountains. The only place where they don't have natural defense is right there, but they have so many troops concentrated there that I don't think Turkey could push in. Meanwhile, Russia does begin a new push down here into Turkey and the Caucasus region, but it doesn't get very far with Turkish troops putting up a strong defense. Over here in North Africa, though, the red team is doing quite well for themselves, with the Congo and Angola meeting up. Although the DRC has cut off the Congo, captured their capital, and this country is not very strong, they will die by day 2. That's about all there is to say about that. Meanwhile, over here in the north, Sudan is beginning to push down the coast, while Ethiopia and the East African Federation are pushing into old South Sudanese lands, and the Central African Republic is just dying. They aren't very strong. They joined against the European powers, like I said earlier, but that isn't going to work out for them very well now, is it? Then we see Nigeria. They don't know what to do. Join the red team, join the blue team, but they see, hey, Benin's on the red team. I want to kill Benin. So they join in on the blue team, and that takes Cameroon, it takes Equatorial Guinea, and Gabon onto the red team, along with the Ivory Coast, Liberia, Sierra Leone, Guinea-Bissau, Senegal, and the Gambia. Now a majority of Africa is involved. What continent isn't involved? The Americas. Guess what just happened? The USA joined this Brazilian alliance, which turns into the American alliance. We also see Mexico joining, Peru and Bolivia join. Basically just all of South America is now involved. We see Costa Rica and Panama join the American alliance. Belize stays out of it for now, but who knows how long that'll last. Yeah, the blue team just got a whole lot more members. But one thing that we do see is South Africa joining the red team, Namibia and Botswana the blue team, Zimbabwe and Zambia the red team, and Malawi the blue team. Meanwhile, Madagascar just stays neutral. Bangladesh joins the blue team, Bhutan the blue team, Nepal stays neutral. Malaysia, blue team, Brunei, red team, Indonesia, red team. We're just getting everyone involved here. These won't be perfect, but they're going to be pretty close to a real life scenario. And you want to know the best thing about mapping alternate future? You can make it as stupid as you want to. That's the best part. So now we really do see a majority of the world involved. And yeah, this is definitely something. This is a very big something. And where is it a very big something? Over here in Nigeria, where they're pushing out on all fronts. Over here in the DRC, where they're being pushed out of the Congo, as they really didn't expect these countries to join in. And that's pushing them back. Down here in Angola, though, that's going much better for them as they're beginning to push in to the country, deciding not to go for the coastline that is heavily defended and go for the heartland of Angola, which will capitulate them. Down here in Botswana and Namibia, South Africa's basically just going to destroy them. South Africa's already stronger than both of them combined, times 2 in real life. Well, now do times 3 since they've gotten a lot stronger. And I really don't see these countries posing much of a challenge for them. Over here in Mozambique, same thing. South African and Zimbabwean troops push in. Meanwhile, over here in Zambia, we actually see the blue team taking about half the country in an attempt to kind of scare off the red team from pushing in anymore. Yeah, that doesn't really work up here in the north, now does it? Because the red team is deciding to push into Ethiopia a lot more and take back a lot of Sudan's land. Somewhere the red team isn't doing well, though, is in the Central African Republic, where the country basically just falls. In Algeria, where the deserts are becoming more red, the Gambia is taken over. As soon as I can get that, there we go. Liberia doesn't exist no. Oh my god. Yeah, that is not Liberia. Okay, well, whenever I remember that name, I'll let you guys know. But Nigeria is basically just holding a front on all fronts. Sounds so weird, but it is true. Morocco's pushing into Mauritania until other red team troops arrive. And blue team troops are pushing back the Russians. Now, at this point, what is happening here? The war is not really gonna end, but it is ending. The world has lost millions upon tens of millions of people, and nobody wants to keep fighting. So the blue team decides that it's time for their last push. They take the island of Sakhalin from Russia, along with all of these islands. Japan and the USA make a joint naval landing, taking a lot of eastern Russia, a lot of Siberia. They also make a landing in South Korea, pushing up and making a border with the Chinese. And the Indians begin to push more into southern Pakistan and northern India, sacrificing hundreds of thousands, if not millions of lives, so that they don't lose anything in the peace treaty. They will lose something, but this is definitely working out for them. The Sudanese and the red team, period, also tried to take advantage of the war almost being over, pushing into a lot of countries, with Iran conscripting millions of people for their army, with around, what is it now, over 10% of their population being in the military to attempt to push back and take as much land as they can. Same thing with the Pakistanis. They want to take back their land before the war's over. And everyone's basically just done. So, this is where I'm going to leave the war off. It is a global war, to say the least. Actually, no. Indonesia takes out this Malay part. And now we end the war here. It has been a long fought, many years for the world. And I don't think anyone wants to keep fighting it. Literally, I don't think anybody wants to keep fighting it. So everyone basically just says, okay, no winner. We all lost millions upon millions of men. And the world basically makes a peace treaty for now. So we just have to recolor everything white. Yep. Oh wow, it didn't even take that long that time. So yeah, that just happened. The world went to war. And the world basically ended the war. In a sort of stalemate, I want to say. So yeah, wow. That just happened. And the world is at peace now. Well, technical peace. It's kind of a Cold War kind of scenario, but yeah, we don't talk about that part. For the peace treaty, Morocco takes more of the Mauritanian coast and a tiny bit of the central Mauritania, but that land isn't very sought over, as the rest of Mauritania is probably gonna unite with Mali, who has taken a decently large chunk out of Algeria and is becoming decently strong, especially when united with Mauritania, but nowhere near regional power. As for Nigeria, they just take a bit of land out of everyone. Poor Niger's practically dead. The red team's probably just gonna split them. Yeah, Niger's split. They tried to let the country live, but with more land being lost, it really just isn't worth it anymore. Let's see Nigeria taking a bit of land out of Benin. They take land out of Cameroon. And Nigeria's expanded a small bit. The DRC, meanwhile, has annexed the Congo and this little portion of Angola, along with a tiny bit along the coast, along the border, but they were not able to take any more land than that. Well, they did take some land out of, the CAR, Central African Republic. Meanwhile, over here in South Sudan, the blue team has ceded small amounts of land for their troubles. But overall, Sudan keeps control of the Nile, and they also gain land out of Ethiopia, which is very good for them. Down here in the south, South Africa, basically, they take a majority of Namibia and Botswana, but Angola is given a bit as they contributed in this war, and so is Zimbabwe. And Zambia, who, by the way, no more panhandle for the DRC, as that has now been split between two countries. We also see Malawi joining the East African Federation, and anybody else joining? No, not really. For here in the north, that's about all the changes. Israel and Egypt, never exchanged land. Just one long stalemate there. But over here, Israel does annex Palestine, and Israel annexes all of Lebanon. Which is, I guess, pretty good for Israel. More coastline. Why not? But not the most important piece of land in the world. Jordan gained some southern Syria and some land out of Iraq. A lot of Iraq goes to Turkey, along with some bits of northern Iran, although not a lot, along with some out of Armenia. Russia's given a tiny bit of land out of Turkey, along with about half of Armenia and a bit of northern Azerbaijan, who are given a tiny bit of northern Iran and what's left of Armenia. Saudi Arabia is just given a huge chunk of it out of Iraq. Kuwait is given a small bit of land along the coast. Yemen is split between Saudi Arabia and Oman. That looks horrible. That looks better, but still not good. Yeah, well, I don't know why I'm not being able to draw on that border, but that will do. Over here in India, they take a good portion of southern Pakistan, along with just some land along the border. Meanwhile, Kashmir is basically just split between Pakistan and China. Over here in East India, China gains a tiny bit of land, but I would call India the victor, as they get a good piece of Myanmar. A very nice piece of Myanmar, actually. Meanwhile, Thailand gets a lot of Myanmar as well. Vietnam annexes Laos and Cambodia, except for a tiny bit of the north, which also goes to China. We see Hong Kong and Taiwan being annexed by China. South Korea gets some land out of North Korea. The rest, try and guess, is given to China. What else? These islands are now Japanese, as well as these. All those islands are now Japanese. And they're given a tiny bit of Siberia. Same with the US, given a tiny bit of Siberia. As they made that last push in the end, that got them that land. Over here in Europe, not much happens, but Kaliningrad is split by Poland and Lithuania. And Estonia loses some land to Russia, along with Latvia losing some land to Belarus. So yeah, not a lot of changes. Oh, and I almost forgot, Finland loses some southern land, while Russia loses their entire northern bit. So yeah, I don't know if I would say that Russia won or lost. In Europe, it was mostly just a stalemate, a majority of the war. Just coloring it all white. If you don't want to watch me do the borders, you can go ahead and skip ahead, but yeah, making the borders is a huge part of mapping, and it's probably the longest part. Cuba is annexed by the US. I never colored Puerto Rico white. Sure. And anything else we have to do really border-wise? No, not really. Let's just make these all white. Well, actually, there's one thing that happens. Costa Rica joins Mexico. They want to form the official, I guess you could call it, yeah. These are all Spanish-speaking countries. They can get along, I think. If not, let me know, but it's not too bad. Let's just finish drawing in the borders. Morocco's expanding, blah, 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 blah. Mauritania next by Mali. Here's also a good point to watch if you'd like to see all the borders just being made, period. Yeah, it's the slower part of mapping that nobody ever shows, isn't it? But yeah, Mali. It's expanded quite a bit here. Who would have guessed? Actually, yeah. Honestly, yeah, no, that looks so ugly. Just give Morocco the entire coast. In the name of no border gore, Morocco gets the rest of the coast. And a tiny little piece of Senegal to make it nicer. No, actually, give Senegal back some of that land. There we go, isn't that so much nicer? Yeah, Morocco's big. We also see a pretty large union forming up over here. Guinea-Bissau joins Senegal. We see Guinea joining I guess we can continue to call it Mali, but I don't know. Maybe it would get a new name. It has expanded quite a bit, so it probably would. Burkina Faso joins. And we see a lot of these Western African countries join in on this. No, actually, I don't see Sierra Leone joining in. They're doing just fine on their own. They don't really need it. There's going to be one more unification over here, though. That is going to be between the Ivory Coast, Ghana, Togo, and what's left of Benin to form kind of an Ivory Coast country, yeah. A larger country like that. This land is now Nigerian. Yeah, this world is going to look very different. Liberia, Sierra Leone joins this new kind of... Okay, what is this in Africa? This is West Africa. Yeah, that is West Africa. So yeah, all that's left now is the South, but that's basically just all South Africa, so don't think it matters that much. Cameroon lost some land to Nigeria, but they'll survive. Hopefully they'll survive. I mean, you can never really know, but... Okay, is 8 enough? I need to find an actual border. Here. This has always been a border. No, 9 is better. Wish they had halves. But the DRC gets some land out of the CR, Central African Republic. Seeing as the country basically just got destroyed. But they do end up unifying with some countries here like Cameroon. They end up unifying with Gabon and Equatorial Guinea, as all of these countries are weak and small. And they could all really use the help. Yes, they have different cultures and all of that, but honestly, their choices are die or unite. And they'd all rather unite. And yeah, that's about as simple as you can put it. Sudan. Did they win this war? Yeah, I'd say they did. They lost some desert to the East African Federation, but they gained some much more important lands out of Ethiopia. Here, DRC gets some land out of Zambia. Oh yes, the border goal is gone. The East African Federation gains some land. Who might unite with the DRC soon, but for now, both countries are strong enough on their own, and they aren't really looking to unite anytime soon. But hey, maybe one day those two will unite to really form the East African Federation. Now, though, let's just draw this in. And yeah, wow, DRC is big now. What is the largest country in Africa now? Sudan has done nothing but expand. So they're pretty big. Algeria's lost quite a bit of land. I wouldn't say they are. Not even in the contending. Egypt's pretty large. Libya's pretty large. This new West African nation is very large, actually. DRC and East African Federation are also very big. Yeah, Africa has a lot less countries now. A lot less countries. And I'm pretty sure that in the peace treaty, the combination of all these countries trying to get land for the millions of people who died, pretty sure they created, thought about cultures and all of that even less than when the Europeans colonized Africa. That is saying a lot. But then again, the Americans were involved. So, yeah. What else happened here? Yep, the split of Yemen. And Africa's practically just done. Pretty much, yeah. And at the end of this, I do want to make one more alliance map just to show you what is happening here with all of these countries and how a massive war has ended up dividing them. But first, oh my god, this is taking a while. If you're still watching, well, one, thank you, but two, I doubt anybody's watching this. Just me waiting out some borders. Saudi Arabia take about half of Iraq, as I said. And this isn't a functional country, so it's given over to Iran. It's just not strong enough to exist as a country. Lost too much land, and it doesn't have any good cities anymore. Might have one or two, but overall, yeah, it was destroyed. Yeah, but let me know, who do you think was the victor in this conflict? Both sides gained and lost land in certain regions, so really is up for debate who the victor was. Alright, that's it for the Middle East. We're here, India. Yeah, India got some good land out of southern and central Pakistan. Although they did lose all of Kashmir, so I'm not sure if that was worth it. I think it was for them, but yeah, a bit of a trade-off. Alright, almost done with this. Yeah, look at those Indian borders. That's just, I want to call it cleaner, but I'm not sure if I like it or not. And actually, I think we can have Nepal and Bhutan joining India. Both of these countries pretty weak, but mountainous, and I mean, religion's pretty similar. Actually, Nepal has the exact same one. Bhutan and India, very good allies in real life, present day, and in this scenario, so I don't see that as unlikely. Anyways, now that India has some more land over here in Myanmar, the extra help connecting their two sides, yeah, it will be very good for them. Because Bangladesh, sadly for India, refused to join them. Since basically they were just like, no, different culture, different people, we're doing just fine. Which they really aren't, but maybe they will join them in the future. But that is in the future. Let's go ahead, color these in. We saw Indonesia take the entire island of Borneo. Brunei was conquered by Malaysia and annexed by Malaysia in their own kind of peace treaty. And then Malaysia was annexed by Indonesia. So even though they were on the same side, Indonesia actually got all of the country of Brunei. What else happened? China took over Hong Kong and Taiwan. The North Koreans split. Anything else I'm missing? Yes, we have to go to Europe. But not too many border changes there either. Anything else we have to do? No, not really. All the borders seem to be drawn in everywhere except Europe. Oh, no, wait. I did draw in the borders of Europe. There we go. That's the new world map, huh? Up. Almost. Give me a second. Technical difficulties. Some very technical difficulties. There. Now it's done. So, yeah, let's go ahead, set it back to the alliance map and see what has changed. So the pink alliance now includes Uzbekistan. We actually see Afghanistan joining in and their government, it's still a horrible country to live in, but the East basically just helps them out and in return they join them. Of course I forgot some land down here in Southeast Asia. Why wouldn't I? Let's just give it to China already, who is also a very large and influential country now. I mean, they already were, but now they're actually like fully rivaling the US. They have by far more population. Economy, it's incredibly close. Off by less than $1 trillion, but I still have to give it to the US. Actually, no, China might have overtaken them. I mean, they took over all of Taiwan. They took a lot of Southeast Asia. Kashmir. That would be very close. Well, the point here is the East. Actually, I'm pretty sure they lost some stuff from this. I don't know. China definitely gained, but they lost some of their smaller allies. So I guess that's bad for them. You know, Vietnam, much nicer borders here. Much, much nicer borders here. Alright. Now we can continue to draw it in. This kind of like Saudi Arabian defense pact still exists and is going strong. Consists of basically all of Arabia now. Yeah, that is a pretty powerful pact now. We also see this kind of North African alliance expanding quite a bit as it now controls. Oh my god, yeah, that is one very, very powerful alliance. Actually, no, let's not turn it into a North African. Let's add in a few more countries. This is now the African Axis. There, that's a cool name. I found a cool name for it. The African Axis. Meanwhile, over here, the East African Federation is the exact same when it comes to countries. And looks like their rivals are winning. Hurts me to say it, but yeah. We also see a new alliance being formed up between India, Bangladesh, Thailand, Vietnam, Malaysia. This is basically just like the, I don't know what you'd call it, but the Indian alliance. Then, of course, we have the Brazilian alliance, which just consists of a bunch of countries who don't want to die. Okay, Brazil, Guyana, Suriname, Ecuador, Peru, Bolivia, Chile, Paraguay, Uruguay, and Argentina. A lot of the South American nations. As for the rest of the world, well, we can go ahead and go to that. Set it to 500. And color in a majority of the world. Mexico joins, Belize and Panama join. They basically just take over Cuba. All of Europe joins in. Not Belarus. I'll decolor that later. Nigeria joins. Madagascar still, like, I guess you could call it independent. Australia and New Zealand. Australia actually takes over New Guinea, and a lot of these islands are given to them by the US. And the Philippines, Japan, and all of this land. Yeah, the world is very split. Actually, yeah, Indonesia joins the East. Wow, yeah, there we go. That is practically the whole world in an alliance. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed, because the next and final war is upcoming. Hope you guys enjoyed. Goodbye.